The council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a jewel made of steel and glass. Inside, representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated seats, watching the human who stood alone at the center platform. Ambassador Marcus Webb kept his hands clasped behind his back, his gray suit perfectly pressed, his face calm. He had been standing there for 3 hours while the Jathic presented their demands. High Commander Velcroth was massive even by Jathic standards. His scales shimmered purple and black under the chamber lights, and his forearms gestured dramatically as he spoke. The translator device rendered his hissing voice into perfect galactic common. The Jathic Dominion has been patient with the humans, Velcroth announced, his words echoing through the vast chamber. We have watched them expand into territories that rightfully belong to older, wiser civilizations. We have tolerated their presence on worlds they have no business colonizing. But our patience has limits. Marcus said nothing. His blue eyes tracked every movement the Jathic commander made. Therefore, Velcroth continued, raising one clawed hand, the Dominion demands that humanity immediately surrender control of 3 colony worlds. New Harmony, Proxima Tertius, and Eden's Gate will be transferred to Dominion authority within 30 standard days. The human populations will be relocated at their own expense. This is not negotiable. A murmur rippled through the assembled delegates. Some species looked uncomfortable. Others seemed relieved that the Jathic anger was directed at someone else for once. The council speaker, a floating crystalline being named Harmonious Note, chimed softly. Ambassador Webb, you have heard the Dominion's position. What is Earth's response? Marcus stepped forward to the microphone. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. No. Velcroth's head snapped toward him. What did you say? I said no, Marcus repeated. Earth will not surrender those worlds. 12 million human citizens live on those planets. They built homes there. They started families. They have children who were born under those skies. We will not abandon them because you demand it. The Jathic commander laughed, a harsh barking sound. You speak as if you have a choice, human. The Dominion controls 847 worlds. Our military could crush your entire species in a matter of months. You are primitives who only recently learned to travel between stars. You use technology you barely understand, copied from better species. We understand it well enough, Marcus said calmly. Do you? Velcroth descended from his platform and walked toward Marcus, his claws clicking on the metal floor. He towered over the human, nearly 3 meters tall. Tell me, Ambassador, how many wars has your species won against galactic powers? How many battle fleets do you command? The Dominion has been conquering worlds for 10,000 years. What have you accomplished in your brief, pathetic existence? Marcus looked up at the alien commander without flinching. We survived. Survived. Velcroth leaned down, bringing his face close to Marcus's. His breath smelled like sulfur. Survived is not the same as thrived, little human. You survived because we allowed it. You exist because we have not yet decided to exterminate you. Is that a threat, Commander? It is a fact. Velcroth straightened and addressed the council. The Jathic Dominion has been more than fair. We could simply take what we want. Instead, we come here to this council and ask politely. We follow the rules. But if humanity refuses, then we will have no choice but to enforce our claim by force. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. The representative from the Keelther Collective, a species that had been conquered by the Jathic 2 centuries ago, would not meet Marcus's eyes. Harmonious Note chimed again. The council must vote on this matter. If the Dominion's claim is deemed legitimate, Earth will be required to comply. All in favor of supporting the Jathic claim. Marcus watched as hands, tentacles, and appendages rose throughout the chamber. 29 votes in favor. The council was supposed to protect smaller species, but everyone knew the truth. The Jathic were too powerful to oppose. All opposed. 11 votes against. Not enough. The motion passes, Harmonious Note announced, sounding genuinely sorrowful. Earth has 30 standard days to begin the transfer of the disputed colonies. This session is concluded. Marcus stood perfectly still as the other delegates began to file out. Some looked at him with pity. Others avoided his gaze entirely. Only Velcroth approached him, that same mocking expression on his reptilian face. "You should have accepted when I was being reasonable, human," the commander said softly. "Now you will learn what happens when lesser species defy the Dominion. Perhaps after we settle those 3 worlds, we will find reason to claim a few more. Maybe Earth itself." Marcus finally showed emotion. A small smile touched his lips. "Commander Velcroth, I need to tell you something important. What could you possibly have to say that matters?" "You don't understand what you're awakening," Marcus said quietly. "You think humans are weak because we prefer diplomacy. You think we're primitive because we've only been in space for 200 years. But do you know why humanity survived long enough to reach the stars?" Velcroth's eyes narrowed. "Luck." "No," Marcus said. "Earth is a death world, Commander. Our planet tried to kill us every single day. Predators that could tear us apart. Diseases that wiped out millions. Weather that could freeze or burn us. Earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, droughts. And do you know what else tried to kill us? I care little." "Each other," Marcus interrupted. "We spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing other humans. We created weapons that could level cities. We developed strategies and tactics for every kind of warfare imaginable: naval battles, air superiority, guerrilla warfare, siege tactics, psychological operations. We built bombs that could crack our own planet open if we were foolish enough to use them all at once." He took a step closer to the towering alien. "We didn't climb to the top of Earth's food chain by being reasonable, Commander. We did it by being the most dangerous, adaptable, stubborn creatures our world ever produced. I became a diplomat because I wanted to prove we could be better than that we could talk instead of fight. And now you threaten me." Velcroth laughed again. "How human." "I'm not threatening you," Marcus said. "I'm warning you. If you attack those colonies, if you hurt those people, you won't be fighting human diplomats anymore. You'll be fighting what we used to be, what we're still capable of being when someone pushes us too far." "I look forward to it," Velcroth said, turning away. 30 days, human. Then we take what is ours." Marcus watched the Jathic commander leave. Around him, the chamber emptied until he stood alone on the platform. His hands were shaking now, though he had kept them steady during the confrontation. He pulled out a small communication device and keyed in an encrypted channel to Earth. "Web to Earth command. The Council voted against us. The Jathic have 30 days to comply with the transfer. I don't think they're going to wait that long." The response came quickly. "Understood, Ambassador. What are your orders?" "Prepare evacuation protocols for all 3 colonies. Get as many people off those worlds as possible quietly. Don't let the Jathic know what we're doing." "Will they really attack?" Marcus closed his eyes. "Yes, they will. Velcroth wants to make an example of us. Show the galaxy what happens when you refuse the Dominion." "Then what do? "We get ready," Marcus said. "And we hope I'm wrong about what happens next." 23 days later, Marcus was in his quarters aboard the diplomatic ship when the emergency broadcast came through. He was dreaming of home, of the ranch in Montana where he had grown up, when the alarms jolted him awake. "All personnel, this is Priority 1. Emergency broadcast," the ship's computer announced. "We have confirmed reports of Jathic military action against the human colony Proxima. Orbital bombardment was detected. Multiple impacts were confirmed." Marcus threw on his uniform and raced to the bridge. The crew was already there, gathered around the holographic display showing feeds from Proxima Tertius. What they saw made Marcus's blood run cold. The planet was burning. Jathic warships hung in orbit, their plasma cannons firing in precise patterns. Each shot hit a population center. The capital city of New Landing disappeared in a ball of fire. Then River Valley, then Hope Springs. One by one, the cities where humans had built their lives were erased from existence. "How many?" Marcus asked, his voice barely a whisper. The communications officer looked up, tears streaming down her face. "The colony had 12,400 people. Evacuation got out about 6,000. The rest, she couldn't finish. Show me everything, Marcus said. For the next hour, he watched the genocide unfold. The Jathak were methodical, efficient. They didn't stop with the cities. They hit the farms, the research stations, the small towns scattered across the continents. When they were done, Proxima was a smoking ruin, its atmosphere choked with ash and radiation. Then the communication came through. Velcroth's face filled the screen, and Marcus could see the cruel satisfaction in his eyes. Ambassador Webb, the commander said. As you can see, the Dominion does not make empty threats. Proxima Tertius is now Dominion territory. You have 7 days to evacuate the remaining 2 colonies. If you refuse, they will share this world's fate. Marcus stood slowly. Everyone on the bridge was looking at him, waiting for orders, waiting for him to say something that would make sense of this horror. Record this, Marcus said to the communications officer. Direct channel to Velcroth. Make sure it's sent on every frequency the Dominion uses. He waited until the recording light blinked on, then spoke directly to the camera. His voice was steady, but there was something in his eyes that made even his own crew step back. Commander Velcroth, this is Ambassador Marcus Webb. You just killed 6,000 human civilians, men, women, and children who never threatened you, who never raised a weapon against your people. You murdered them to make a point. He leaned forward. So let me make a point of my own. I'm done being a diplomat. As of this moment, I'm requesting Earth Command authorize me as Supreme Theater Commander under Total War Protocols. And when they approve it, and they will approve it, I'm going to show you something. Marcus's smile was terrible to see. You wanted to know what humans are capable of when we're pushed too far, Commander. You wanted war. Then you're going to get war, not the civilized kind that follows your precious galactic rules. Not the kind where we meet your fleets in honorable battle. You're going to get the kind of war that Earth perfected over 10,000 years of practice. He stood at attention, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than a shout. I said you don't understand what you're awakening, Commander. Now you're going to learn. And when I'm done, when your empire is broken and your worlds are burning, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember that you had a choice. You chose war. So now you'll see your worlds reduced to cinders, just like you did to ours. He gestured, and the transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Finally, the tactical officer spoke. Sir, that message, you just declared war on the most powerful empire in the galaxy. They have 847 worlds. Earth only has 32 colonies and maybe 500 warships. They'll crush us. Marcus walked to the viewport and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Proxima Tertius was still burning. Somewhere out there, 6,000 of his people had died screaming. Maybe they will, he said softly. But not before I make them pay for every single life they took today. Send the message to Earth Command. Request authorization for Total War Protocols, and tell them to start activating everyone who served in the old wars. We're going to need people who remember how humans fought before we became civilized. His reflection in the viewport looked like a stranger. The diplomat was gone. In his place stood something older, something that had been sleeping for 2 centuries, something that should have stayed asleep. Get me a fleet, Marcus Webb said, and may whatever gods exist forgive us for what happens next. Earth's War Council met in a bunker 3 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room had been built during the old wars, back when humans still fought each other instead of exploring the stars. For 200 years, it had been a museum. Now it was active again, and that fact alone told everyone how serious things had become. Marcus Webb stood at the head of the table, no longer wearing a diplomat's suit. Instead, he wore the dark gray uniform of the Earth Defense Force, with rank insignia that hadn't been used since the unification. Supreme Theater Commander. In the old days, it meant someone who had authority over entire continents during wartime. Now, it meant he could command humanity's entire military force. Around the table sat the leaders of Earth's government and military. Prime Minister Sarah Chun looked tired, her hands folded in front of her. Admiral James Rodriguez commanded the fleet. General Patricia Morrison led the ground forces. Dr. Yuki Tanaka represented the intelligence services. They had all watched the footage from Proxima Tertius. They had all seen what the Jathik were capable of. The authorization is granted, Chun said quietly. Total war protocols are now active. Commander Webb, Earth's military forces are yours to direct as you see fit. We have only one question. Can we win? Marcus looked at each of them in turn. Not if we fight them the way they expect. The Jathik Dominion has 847 worlds, 10,000 warships, and 10,000 years of experience conquering other species. If we meet them in traditional fleet battles, they'll destroy us. Then how do we fight them? Admiral Rodriguez asked. We fight them the way humans have always fought when we were outnumbered and outgunned, Marcus said. He activated the holographic display at the center of the table. It showed the galaxy with Jathik territory marked in red. Human space was a tiny blue dot by comparison. We use every advantage we have. We study their weaknesses. We hit them where they're vulnerable. And we never, ever fight fair. General Morrison leaned forward. Explain. Marcus pulled up files on the Jathik military structure. For the past 50 years, human intelligence has been studying every species in the galaxy. We know how they think, how they fight, what they fear. The Jathik are warriors, but they're predictable. They believe in honor, in meeting enemies head-on, in crushing resistance with overwhelming force. That sounds like every military ever, Rodriguez said. Exactly, Marcus replied. They fight like humans used to fight 300 years ago. Big fleets, big battles, clear objectives. But we evolved past that. We learned guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, psychological operations. We learned how to turn an enemy's strength into weakness. He zoomed in on the Jathik supply network. Look at this. 847 worlds. All connected by a centralized logistics system. Everything automated: food, fuel, ammunition, all moved by AI-controlled ships following predictable routes. They've been using the same system for 2,000 years because it's never failed them. Dr. Tanaka smiled. Because no one has ever tried to hack it. Right? Marcus said. The Jathik view cyber warfare as dishonorable. They don't defend against it properly because they assume everyone follows the same codes of conduct they do. That's their first weakness. What about their fleets? Rodriguez asked. Even if we disrupt their supply lines, they still have enough firepower to glass every human world. Marcus's expression hardened. Then we make sure they never get the chance to use it. We're not going to defend our worlds, Admiral. We're going to attack theirs. The room went silent. You want to invade Jathik territory? Chun said slowly. Marcus, that's suicide. Not invade, Marcus corrected. Destabilize. The Dominion controls 847 worlds, but most of those worlds didn't join willingly. They were conquered. The populations are oppressed, angry, waiting for any sign that the Dominion can be beaten. We're going to give them that sign. He pulled up intelligence reports on Jathik-occupied worlds. 312 of their worlds have active resistance movements. Another 200 have populations that would rebel if they thought they had a chance. The Jathik maintain control through fear and military presence, but their forces are spread thin. They rely more on reputation than actual strength. So we shatter that reputation, General Morrison said, understanding dawning in her eyes. Exactly, Marcus confirmed. We hit soft targets, supply depots, automated mining stations, communications relays, nothing with significant military defense. We move fast, strike hard, and disappear before they can respond. Every attack is broadcast across the galaxy. Every victory shows the conquered species that the Dominion can bleed. Admiral Rodriguez studied the display. It could work, but we'd need perfect intelligence on their positions, their patrol routes, their response times. We'd need to know where they're vulnerable before we strike. We have it, Dr. Tanaka said. She activated her own display. Human intelligence has been inside Jathik systems for 20 years. We have detailed maps of every installation, every patrol route, every weak point in their defensive network. We did it to understand them, to prepare for any threat. Now, we use that knowledge as a weapon. There's something else, Marcus added. The Jathic have a psychological weakness. They're a warrior culture. Everything is about honor, strength, and dominance. When they win, they're unstoppable. But when they lose, when they're humiliated, they become unstable. Their commanders make mistakes. They overreact. They divide their forces, trying to respond to threats everywhere at once. He pulled up a tactical analysis. We're going to make them angry. We're going to hit them in ways that insult their pride, and we're going to use that anger against them. Prime Minister Chen stood and walked to the display. She looked at the vast red territory, so large compared to humanity's small presence. You're talking about fighting an entire empire with psychological warfare and sabotage. What happens when they stop chasing us and start destroying human worlds one by one? They'll try, Marcus said quietly. That's why we evacuated as many people as we could from our vulnerable colonies. That's why our remaining colonies are fortified and ready to fight. But more importantly, we're going to move faster than they can respond. By the time they organize a strike against us, we'll have already hit 10 of their worlds. He looked around the table. I'm not going to lie to you. People are going to die, human and alien. This kind of war is ugly, brutal, and exhausting. But it's the only way we can win. The Jathic have numbers and firepower. We have speed, intelligence, and the element of surprise. And hate, General Morrison added softly. They killed 6,000 of our people. Every soldier, every pilot, every Marine knows someone who died on Proxima. That's fuel for this war. Yes, Marcus agreed. But we can't let hate make us stupid. We fight smart. We fight cold. We do what needs to be done and nothing more. The goal isn't to exterminate the Jathic. It's to break their empire so completely that they beg for peace. Admiral Rodriguez stood. When do we start? 3 days, Marcus said. I need time to brief the fleet commanders and set up our initial targets. We'll hit 6 different locations simultaneously, all in the outer regions of Dominion space. Supply depots, automated mining stations, and 1 major communications relay. By the time their military responds, we'll be gone. He pulled up another display showing fleet deployments. We're reorganizing our ships into fast strike groups, no more than 5 ships per group. They jump in, hit the target, and jump out. No prolonged engagements. No heroic last stands. If it looks like the enemy is going to catch you, you run. Survival is more important than any single victory. What about you? Chen asked. Where will you be? With the 3rd strike group, Marcus said. I'm not commanding this war from a safe bunker. I need to be out there, seeing what works, what doesn't, making decisions in real time. Dr. Tanaka frowned. That's a risk, Commander. If you're captured or killed, then someone else takes over, Marcus interrupted. But the crews need to know I'm not asking them to do anything I wouldn't do myself. This is going to be hard enough without them thinking their commander is hiding while they die. The meeting continued for hours. They discussed targets, tactics, communication protocols, and contingency plans. They argued about ethics and strategy. They planned for victory and prepared for defeat. When they finally adjourned, it was late evening. Earth's sun was setting over the mountains above them. Marcus walked out onto an observation platform carved into the mountain face. The sky was brilliant orange and red, and he could see the lights of Denver in the valley below. Somewhere up there, beyond the atmosphere, ships were gathering. His fleet, his responsibility. Admiral Rodriguez joined him, handing him a cup of coffee. Having second thoughts? Every single second, Marcus admitted. I was a Marine for 12 years. I've seen combat. But I became a diplomat because I believed we could solve problems without killing people. Now I'm planning a war that could kill millions. Velcroth started this war, Rodriguez said. You're just finishing it. Maybe, Marcus said. Or maybe I'm proving him right. Maybe humanity really is just primitives with stolen technology. Primitives who know how to kill efficiently. You know what I think? Rodriguez said. I think you're someone who tried peace first. You stood in that council chamber and asked for a diplomatic solution. They chose violence. They killed our people. Now you're doing what you have to do to protect the rest of humanity. That's not primitive. That's necessary. Marcus took a sip of coffee. It was terrible, the way military coffee always was, and somehow that was comforting. 3 days, Admiral. Then we find out if I'm a genius or a madman. Could be both, Rodriguez said with a slight smile. The best military commanders usually are. 3 days later, Marcus stood on the bridge of the EDS Retribution, watching the countdown timer approach 0. Around him, the bridge crew worked in focused silence. They were professionals trained for exactly this kind of operation. But Marcus could see the tension in their shoulders, the way their hands moved just a little too quickly over their controls. All strike groups, report ready, the communications officer said. Awaiting your order, sir. Marcus looked at the tactical display. 6 different targets spread across 3 sectors of Jathic space. 6 different strike groups, each waiting for his command. After this, there was no going back. Humanity would be at war with the most powerful empire in the galaxy. He thought about Proxima, about 6,000 people who would never go home, about children who died because someone wanted to make a political point. All ships, Marcus said clearly, execute, jump, show them what humans do when you threaten our families. The Retribution jumped into hyperspace. The war had begun. When they emerged, they were in the Cathera system, home to one of the Dominion's major supply depots. The facility was massive, a space station the size of a small moon, surrounded by automated defense platforms. It supplied 40 different Jathic military bases. Defense platforms activating, the tactical officer reported. We have incoming fire. Don't bother shooting back, Marcus ordered. Weapons, transmit the override codes Dr. Tanaka provided. Let's see if 20 years of intelligence work was worth it. The weapons officer entered the codes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the defense platforms stopped firing. Their targeting systems went dark. Then they rotated slowly and began firing on the supply depot itself. It worked, someone whispered in amazement. Helm, take us in close, Marcus said. Communications, broadcast this on all Dominion frequencies. I want everyone to see this. As the Retribution approached, the defense platforms systematically destroyed the supply depot's docking bays, weapons arrays, and reactor cores. The massive station began breaking apart, pieces spinning off into space. 20 years of supplies, gone in 15 minutes. Sir, Jathic patrol ships are responding, the tactical officer reported. ETA 12 minutes. More than enough time, Marcus said. Launch the message drones, then plot a jump to the rally point. Let's go visit our next target. The drones launched, spreading in different directions. Each one carried a recording of the attack, showing how easily humans had turned Dominion technology against itself. Within hours, those recordings spread across the galaxy. As the Retribution jumped away, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Reports were already coming in from the other strike groups. All 6 attacks had succeeded. 0 human casualties. 6 major Dominion facilities destroyed. Communications, open a channel, Marcus said. Direct to High Commander Velcroth, wherever he is. When the channel opened, Marcus spoke directly into the camera. His voice was calm, almost friendly. Hello, Commander. This is Marcus Webb. Remember me? I'm the diplomat you threatened. The primitive you said couldn't possibly stand against your empire. He gestured at the footage playing behind him, showing the destroyed supply depot. Today we destroyed 6 of your facilities. Tomorrow we'll destroy 6 more. The day after that, another 6. And we'll keep going until you understand what you've done. He leaned forward. You wanted war, Commander. You wanted to show the galaxy what happens when someone defies the Dominion. So now I'm going to show you what happens when you threaten humanity. You said you wanted to see our worlds reduced to cinders. Then watch as we reduce yours. Marcus smiled, and it was not a kind expression. You're fighting the species that invented total warfare, Commander, and we're just getting started. See you tomorrow. The transmission ended. Around him, the bridge crew stood silent, watching him with something like awe. Set course for the next target, Marcus said quietly. And someone find me every piece of intelligence we have on Jathic military psychology. I want to know exactly what makes them angry, because we're going to use it. As the Retribution jumped through hyperspace, Marcus stood at the viewport, watching the stars blur past. He thought about what he had become, about the line between necessary and monstrous, about whether winning was worth the cost. Then he thought about Proxima Tertius again, about children who would never grow up, about families who died together, and he pushed those thoughts away, burying them deep where they couldn't make him hesitate. There would be time for guilt later. For now, there was only war. 2 months into the war, High Commander Velcroth paced in his command center aboard the flagship Eternal Dominance. The room was designed to be impressive, with walls displaying tactical views of the entire Dominion. Those displays had become painful to look at. Red warning indicators dotted the map like a spreading disease. Another attack, his second-in-command reported, her voice tight with frustration. The mining station at Velica. 3 human ships appeared, disabled our defenses, destroyed the station, and jumped away before our patrol could respond. That's the 43rd attack in 60 days. Velcroth snarled. 43 facilities destroyed. How are these primitives moving through our space so easily? We don't know, Commander. They seem to have detailed intelligence on all our positions. They know where we patrol when we patrol, and they specifically target locations with minimal defense. Velcroth slammed one fist onto the command console. They're cowards. They refuse to meet us in honorable combat. They strike from the shadows and run before we can engage them. With respect, Commander, it's effective, his tactical officer said carefully. Each attack destroys resources we need and emboldens resistance movements on our conquered worlds. We're seeing uprisings on 17 different planets. Populations that have been obedient for centuries are suddenly refusing orders, sabotaging equipment, and attacking our garrisons. Then crush them, Velcroth commanded. Make examples of the rebels. Show them the price of defiance. We have, Commander. But it only makes things worse. The humans are broadcasting footage of our retaliations across the galaxy. They're calling us monsters. Other species are starting to question whether the Dominion is as strong as we claim. Velcroth stared at the tactical display, all 4 fists clenched. He had expected a traditional war, fleet battles where his superior numbers would overwhelm the humans. Instead, the humans were everywhere and nowhere, striking and vanishing like ghosts. They had turned his own infrastructure against him, hacked systems that had been secure for millennia, and done it all without losing a single ship. What does intelligence say about their base of operations? We believe they're operating from mobile command ships, constantly moving through hyperspace. They never stay in one system long enough for us to track them. A communication alert sounded. Velcroth's scales paled when he saw the source. The Dominion Council, the ruling body he answered to. This would not be pleasant. The holographic images of 5 Jathic elders appeared before him. Supreme Council member Rathan spoke first, his ancient voice crackling with barely contained fury. Explain, High Commander, why a species we outnumber 50 to 1 is systematically destroying our infrastructure while we do nothing to stop them. Velcroth forced himself to remain calm. The humans are using dishonorable tactics, Supreme One. They refuse to engage in proper warfare. They strike targets with minimal defense and flee before we can respond. Then adapt, another council member snapped. Or are you telling me that the finest military commander in the Dominion cannot defeat a species that only began space travel 2 centuries ago? They are more sophisticated than we anticipated, Velcroth admitted. Our intelligence underestimated their capabilities. Your intelligence failed, Rathan corrected coldly. Your arrogance led you to attack their colony without properly assessing their military capability. Now we are at war with an enemy we do not understand, and you seem incapable of stopping them. Give me time, Supreme One. I will hunt them down. You have had 2 months, Rathan interrupted. In that time, 43 of our facilities have been destroyed. The humans broadcast each attack to the entire galaxy. Our subject species grow restless. Our allies question our strength. Even the Galactic Council speaks of sanctions against us for our actions on Proxima. Velcroth's anger flared. That was a legitimate military action. They refused our demands. It was a massacre of civilians, another council member said. And now it has given the humans moral authority to wage this war. Every species sees us as the aggressors, and them as the victims fighting for survival. You have given them exactly what they needed. I will end this war, Supreme Ones. I swear it on my honor. See that you do, Radhan said. Because if you cannot, the council will find someone who can. End this, Velcroth, before it ends you. The transmission cut off. Velcroth stood in silence, his staff carefully avoiding his gaze. Assemble the War Council, he ordered. All fleet commanders, intelligence directors, and tactical specialists. I want every mind in the Dominion focused on one problem. How to kill Marcus Webb. On the bridge of the Retribution, Marcus studied the latest intelligence reports with satisfaction. The Jathik were responding exactly as he had predicted. They were angry, frustrated, and making mistakes. Their fleet was spread across 50 systems, trying to guard everything at once. Their commanders were being punished for failures, creating paranoia and infighting. Perfect. Sir, incoming transmission, the communications officer said. Flagged as urgent. Source is Jathik territory. Let's see it. The image that appeared was not Velcroth. Instead, it showed a Cathera, one of the species the Dominion had conquered centuries ago. The alien's blue skin was marked with scars, and his eyes held desperate hope. Human fleet, this is Resistance Cell 17 on Keelthar Prime. We intercepted your broadcasts. We know you're fighting the Dominion. We want to help. Marcus leaned forward. I'm listening. We have intelligence on Dominion military installations in our sector, positions, patrol routes, defense capabilities. We can help you strike targets that will hurt them badly. In return, we ask only that you give us weapons and support. Help us free our world. This was the moment Marcus had been waiting for. The Dominion's conquered subjects were reaching out, ready to rebel. The question was whether to accept their help and risk being pulled into dozens of simultaneous uprisings. Dr. Tanaka, what's our assessment of the Cathera resistance? Marcus asked. The intelligence officer pulled up files. They're legitimate, sir. Operating for 3 decades, primarily peaceful resistance until now. If we support them, other cells on other worlds will likely reach out as well. Which means spreading our forces even thinner, Admiral Rodriguez noted. But it also means the Dominion has to spread their forces, Marcus countered. Right now, they're trying to catch us. If 20 worlds suddenly erupt in rebellion, they'll have to choose between chasing us and holding their empire together. He made his decision. Open a channel to the Cathera. When the connection was established, Marcus spoke clearly. Resistance Cell 17, this is Supreme Commander Marcus Webb. We will provide you with weapons and tactical support. In return, you provide us with intelligence and coordinate your actions with our operations. When we hit Dominion targets in your sector, you strike at the same time. Make them fight on 2 fronts. The Cathera's expression showed pure relief. Thank you, Commander. You don't know what this means to us. We've waited so long for someone to stand against the Dominion. We're not standing against them, Marcus corrected. We're tearing them down. Piece by piece, world by world, until they beg us to stop. Over the next 3 weeks, 17 different resistance cells reached out to the human fleet. Marcus provided each one with weapons, equipment, and coordination. He didn't give them false hope. He told them the truth, that many would die, that the Dominion would retaliate viciously, that this war would be bloody and brutal. Every single cell agreed anyway. They had lived under Jathik rule for too long. Now they saw a chance for freedom, and they were willing to die for it. The results were dramatic. When the human 5th Strike Group hit a weapons depot in the Velica system, the local Cathera resistance simultaneously sabotaged the planetary defense grid. When the 2nd Strike Group destroyed a communications relay, resistance fighters on 3 nearby worlds launched coordinated attacks on Dominion garrisons. The Jathik military was overwhelmed. They had to send ships to suppress rebellions instead of chasing human raiders. Commanders had to choose between pursuing enemies and defending their own bases. The Empire was being pulled apart from within. But the Jathik were learning. They began setting traps, facilities that appeared vulnerable but were heavily defended. The human 7th Strike Group jumped into what looked like an undefended supply depot and found themselves facing a Jathik battle group. Marcus watched the tactical feed as the 7th fought for their lives. They were outgunned 5-1. The commander was Lieutenant Sarah Chun, the Prime Minister's daughter. She had insisted on serving despite her mother's objections. 7th Strike Group, this is Webb. Pull back. Do not engage. Jump to emergency coordinates. Negative, Commander. Chen's voice came back, strained but steady. They're jamming our hyperspace drives. We need 90 seconds to break through. Then you run conventional engines for those 90 seconds, Marcus ordered. Full reverse thrust. Get out of their weapons range. Sir, we can take them if we... That's an order, Lieutenant. Run. He watched as the 7th Strike Group turned and burned hard away from the ambush. The Jathik gave chase, but the human ships were faster. After 87 agonizing seconds, the 7th jumped to safety. Marcus exhaled slowly. That had been too close. Sir, incoming transmission from Velcroth, the communications officer said. He's broadcasting on all frequencies. Velcroth's face appeared on the screen, his expression triumphant. Commander Webb, did you think we would not learn from your tactics? That was just the first trap. We have 20 more scattered throughout our territory. Eventually, you will spring one you cannot escape. And when you do, I will personally watch your ship burn. The transmission ended. The bridge crew looked uneasy. If the Jathik were setting traps, the mission had just become far more dangerous. He's bluffing, Dr. Tanaka said, studying the data. They don't have the resources to properly defend 20 facilities while also managing rebellions and chasing our other strike groups. Maybe 5 real traps maximum. That is still 5 chances for our people to die. Marcus said, we need to change tactics. No more hitting obvious targets. From now on, we focus on attacks that have secondary effects. Like what? Admiral Rodriguez asked. Marcus pulled up a display of the Gothic mining operations. Asteroid mining is automated, right? Processing stations that take raw ore and refine it into usable materials. Yes, and they are usually lightly defended because they are so remote. Exactly, Marcus said. But what happens if we do not destroy the stations? What if we reprogram them? Understanding dawned on the intelligence officer's face. We turn them into weapons. Use their mining lasers and processing equipment to cut up the asteroids into precise chunks, then launch them at specific targets. The Dominion uses predictable shipping lanes, Marcus continued. If we position these modified asteroids along those lanes, we can create a debris field that makes hyperspace travel dangerous. They will have to reroute their entire logistics network. That could take months. It is brilliant, Tanaka said. We turn their own resources into obstacles, and they cannot just destroy the stations because they need them. More than that, Marcus added. Each station we reprogram is one more thing they have to worry about. They will have to send ships to inspect every station, verify it has not been compromised. That spreads them even thinner. The new strategy was implemented over the following weeks. Human strike groups stopped destroying facilities and started taking them over. Mining stations became automated weapons platforms. Communication relays were hacked to broadcast resistance messages. Processing facilities were reprogrammed to produce faulty equipment that would fail under stress. The Jathik Dominion had conquered 847 worlds over 10,000 years of expansion. They had faced countless enemies and defeated them all. But they had never faced an enemy like humanity, an enemy that did not fight for territory or resources, but fought to break them psychologically. An enemy that turned their own infrastructure into a weapon against them. In his command center, Velcro watched his empire crumble one piece at a time. His officers brought him reports of failures, betrayals, and defeats. 3 more worlds were in open rebellion. 7 supply lines were disrupted. A fleet commander had been executed for incompetence. Another was lost to what his troops were calling space madness, driven to paranoia by months of chasing ghosts. He pulled up footage of Marcus Webb, studying the human's face. This was the diplomat who had stood in the council chamber and tried to negotiate peace. The man Velcro had mocked for his weakness. Now that same man was systematically destroying everything Velcro had spent his life building. "We underestimated them," his second-in-command said quietly. "The intelligence reports were wrong. The humans are not primitives. They are predators who were pretending to be prey." "No," Velcro said slowly, understanding finally dawning. "They were not pretending. They genuinely wanted peace." Webb meant every word he said in that chamber. "We could have negotiated. We could have found a compromise." He turned to his officer. "But we chose to make them remember what they used to be. We reminded them that they are the species that survived a death world by becoming its apex predator." "What do we do, Commander?" Velcro stared at the tactical display, showing human attacks across his territory like a spreading cancer. "We fight," he said. "We fight until one of us is destroyed, because I made this war personal, and humans never forget personal grudges." He pulled up a star chart showing the estimated position of the human fleet. "Send word to all commanders. I want every available ship concentrated in the Terala sector. That is where the humans will strike next. I know because that is where our largest fuel processing facility is located, and they have been targeting our supply network. We are going to give them exactly what they want, a clear, vulnerable target." "Another trap, Commander?" "The final trap," Velcro said. "I am going to bet everything on this one gamble. Either we destroy their fleet or we lose this war. There is no middle ground anymore." His officer hesitated. "Commander," Supreme Council member Rathan sent orders. "He wants you to consider negotiating with the humans, offering them reparations for Proxima in exchange for peace." Velcro's laugh was bitter. "You think Webb would accept that after what we have done? After we killed 6,000 of his people?" He shook his head. "No. This ends only one way now, with one of us broken beyond repair." He activated the communication system, sending orders to every JIC military commander. "Prepare for the largest fleet engagement in Dominion history. We are going to show these humans what happens when they push us too far. We are going to show them what the Dominion does to enemies who threaten our empire." In the Terala sector, the trap was set. 300 JIC warships waited in hidden positions around the fuel processing facility, the largest concentration of military force the Dominion had assembled in 2 centuries. Across the galaxy, Marcus Webb studied the intelligence reports on Terala, knowing full well it was a trap, knowing that Velcro expected him to see it as a trap and planning his response accordingly. Because that was the thing about traps. Sometimes you walked into them deliberately, not because you were foolish, but because you had a plan to turn the trap against the hunter. The human fleet jumped toward Terala, and the next phase of the war began. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Terala system, and immediately every sensor screamed warnings. The tactical display lit up with red markers showing hostile ships, not 20 or 30, but 300 Jatic warships arrayed in a perfect ambush formation around the fuel processing facility. "It is a trap," Lieutenant Chan said from the tactical station, her voice remarkably calm. "They have brought half their fleet here." "I know," Marcus said, sitting in the command chair of the Retribution. Around him, the bridge crew waited for orders. They trusted him. They believed he had a plan. He could see it in their faces, even as death surrounded them on all sides. Admiral Rodriguez appeared on the communication screen from his ship. "Marcus, we need to jump out now before they close the net." "Not yet," Marcus said quietly. He was studying the tactical display with intense focus. 300 ships, positioned exactly where he had predicted they would be. Velcro thought in terms of traditional naval warfare: surround the enemy, cut off their escape, force them to surrender or die. "Commander, they are powering up weapons," the sensor officer reported. "They will be in firing range in 90 seconds. Marcus activated the fleet communication channel. "All ships, this is Webb. Proceed to Phase 2. Execute on my mark." The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. Phase 2 was not a retreat. Phase 2 was something far more dangerous. Sir, are you sure about this? Chun asked quietly. If this does not work, we are dead anyway, Marcus said. At least this way, we take as many of them with us as possible. A new voice crackled over the communications, Velcro himself, broadcasting from his flagship. Commander Webb, you walked into my trap. How does it feel to be outmaneuvered by a primitive species? Marcus smiled coldly and opened a response channel. Actually, Commander, I walked into your trap on purpose. Did you really think I would not know you were here? That human intelligence would not detect the largest fleet concentration in Jatic history. There was a pause. When Velcro spoke again, his voice was uncertain. You are bluffing. You would not deliberately bring your fleet into a battle you cannot win. You are right, Marcus agreed. I would not bring my fleet into a battle I cannot win. But I would bring it into a battle you think you can win. There is a difference. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. All ships, execute Phase 2 now. The human fleet did not turn to run. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the fuel processing facility, straight into the teeth of the Jatic ambush. The enemy ships opened fire, their plasma weapons lighting up space with deadly energy. But the human ships did not fire back. Their shields absorbed the hits, their armor plating scorched and melted, but they kept accelerating faster and faster toward the facility. They are targeting our engines, the helmsman reported, hands flying over his controls. Multiple hits on the aft shields, down to 40%. Keep going, Marcus ordered. We just need 30 more seconds. On his flagship, Velcro watched the human ships charge his lines with growing confusion. What are they doing? This is suicide. All ships, concentrate fire. Destroy them before they... He stopped, understanding hitting him like a physical blow. The facility. They are going to ram the facility. All ships, pull back. Pull back now. But it was too late. The human ships were not aiming for the facility itself. They were aiming for the massive fuel storage tanks surrounding it. Tanks that held enough processed fuel to power the entire Dominion fleet for a month. Tanks that had been positioned there specifically because this was supposed to be secure Jatic territory. The first human ship, a destroyer called the Defiant, crashed into a storage tank at full speed. The resulting explosion was visible from 3 systems away, a ball of nuclear fire that expanded outward, consuming everything in its path. Except the Defiant was not a normal destroyer anymore. 3 days ago, it had been retrofitted with a specially designed shield system that could withstand extreme temperatures for exactly 45 seconds. Just long enough. As the explosion expanded, the Defiant emerged from the fireball, its hull glowing red but intact, and continued accelerating away from the blast zone. Behind it, 5 more human ships struck 5 more fuel tanks in perfect coordination. The Terala system became a sun. All ships, emergency jump, Marcus commanded. Execute now. The human fleet vanished into hyperspace just as the explosions merged into one massive detonation. The shockwave caught the Jatic fleet like toys in a hurricane. Ships tumbled through space, their shields overloaded, their hulls buckling from the heat and pressure. 216 Jatic warships were destroyed instantly. Another 63 were damaged so badly they would never fight again. Only 21 ships escaped, including Velcro's flagship. The human fleet reassembled at a rally point 3 systems away. Marcus stood on the bridge, watching the damage reports come in. They had lost the Defiant and 2 other ships, 78 human lives. In exchange, they had destroyed or disabled nearly 90% of the Jatic trap force. Casualties? He asked quietly. 78 confirmed dead, Lieutenant Chun reported, her voice thick with emotion. Another 200 wounded. But, sir, we just destroyed 2/3 of the Dominion's military capability in one engagement. Marcus closed his eyes. 78 more names to add to the list. 78 more families who would receive the worst news possible. But the alternative had been worse. If they had run, Velcro would have chased them across the galaxy, killing them slowly. This way, they had broken the Dominion's ability to wage war. Send a message to all Jatic channels, Marcus said. Record this. When the camera activated, he spoke directly to it, his voice tired but resolute. Commander Velcro, I told you this would happen. I told you that humans do not fight fair. We fight to win. You brought 300 ships to kill my fleet. Now most of those ships are debris. He leaned forward. This is what total war looks like, Commander. This is what happens when you push humans too far. We gave you chances to negotiate. We offered you peace. You chose massacre. So now you get to watch your empire burn. The transmission ended. Around him, the bridge crew was silent. They had won the greatest victory in human military history, but the cost was written on every face. Sir, incoming transmissions from across the galaxy, the communications officer said. Multiple sources. Some are from Jadic territory. Play them. The first message was from the Galactic Council. A harmonious, crystalline voice carried shock and horror. Commander Webb, the Council demands an immediate explanation for the destruction of the Terala system. Preliminary reports suggest millions of casualties. Millions? Lieutenant Chin gasped. Dr. Tanaka pulled up sensor readings. The fuel facility was heavily automated. Minimal staff, maybe 5,000 Jadic personnel maximum. But the planet below. She went pale. The planet was inhabited. 3 million colonists. The radiation from the explosion would have reached the surface. Marcus felt ice settle in his stomach. He checked the intelligence reports on Terala. The facility was listed as automated with minimal personnel. Nothing about a populated planet nearby. Pull up every intelligence file we have on Terala, he ordered. Now. Dr. Tanaka worked frantically. Sir, the files show the planet was designated for colonization but listed as unpopulated. Settlement was not supposed to begin for another 5 years. Velcro moved colonists there, Admiral Rodriguez said slowly, realization dawning. He knew we would target the facility. He put civilians on the planet below as insurance. If we attacked, we would kill millions. If we did not, we would walk into his trap with no way out. Marcus stared at the tactical display, understanding the full magnitude of what had just happened. Velcro had used his own people as shields, and Marcus had killed them anyway. 3 million, he whispered. I just killed 3 million people. You did not know they were there, Chun said urgently. This is on Velcro. He put them in harm's way. Does that matter? Marcus asked. They are still dead because of a decision I made. More transmissions flooded in, the Cathera resistance celebrating the Dominion's defeat, other conquered species seeing this as proof that the Jadic could be beaten, and from Jadic territory messages of horror and rage at the civilian deaths. Then came the transmission Marcus had been dreading. Velcro appeared on screen, and Marcus barely recognized him. The proud warrior looked broken. His scales were dull, his eyes hollow. You killed them, Velcro said, his voice barely above a whisper. 3 million of my people. Civilians. Families. Children. I did not know they were there, Marcus said. Your intelligence listed the planet as uninhabited. Would it have mattered if you had known? Velcro asked. Would you have turned away from such a perfect target? Or would you have told yourself it was necessary, that the ends justified the means? Marcus had no answer, because Velcro was right. If he had known, he probably would have attacked anyway. Because the alternative was watching his own fleet die. This is what you wanted to teach me, isn't it? Velcro continued. The cost of war. What happens when someone pushes humans too far? He laughed bitterly. Congratulations, Commander. You have succeeded. I understand now. I understand that you are exactly as ruthless as you warned me you could be. If you want to surrender, Marcus began. Surrender. Velcro's laugh turned manic. To the species that just killed 3 million of my people? Do you know what would happen if I tried? My own officers would execute me for cowardice. The Dominion Council would have my family killed, and the public would tear me apart with their bare hands. He leaned closer to the camera. No, Commander Webb, there is no surrender now. Not for you, not for me. We fight until one of us is completely destroyed. Because that is what total war means. It means there is no going back, no negotiation, No peace, only victory or extinction. The transmission cut off. Marcus stood frozen, staring at the blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew looked equally shaken. They had won. They had broken the Dominion's military power. But the cost was far higher than any of them had imagined. "Sir, what are our orders?" the helmsman asked quietly. Marcus took a deep breath. He wanted to stop, wanted to find some way to end this before more people died. But Velcro was right. They had gone too far. Both sides had too much blood on their hands to stop. "Now we continue," he said. "Finally, we finish what we started." Over the next 3 weeks, the war intensified to levels of brutality that shocked the galaxy. Jathic forces, desperate and vengeful, launched attacks on human colonies. They could not match Earth's military anymore, but they could kill civilians. New Harmony was bombarded. Eden's Gate was invaded. Human forces retaliated by supporting rebellions across Dominion space. 17 worlds erupted in simultaneous uprisings. The Jathic military, already devastated by the Turala disaster, could not contain them all. Marcus coordinated the attacks from the Retribution, barely sleeping, barely eating. He watched the casualty reports climb: human dead, Jathic dead, Kethra, Velka, and a dozen other species caught in the crossfire. Dr. Tanaka found him in his quarters one night, staring at a picture of Proxima Tertius before the bombardment. Children playing in a park, families walking through gardens. "You need to rest, sir," she said gently. "I can't," Marcus said. "Every time I close my eyes, I see them. The people on Turala. 3 million faces I will never know. 3 million names I will never learn. All dead because of me. Because of Velcro," Tanaka corrected. "He started this war. He made it personal when he destroyed Proxima. And I finished it by killing 3 million of his people," Marcus said. "Tanaka, be honest with me. Am I still the good guy in this story? Or have I become exactly what I was trying to stop?" The intelligence officer sat down across from him. "I don't think there are good guys in total war, sir. There are just people trying to protect their own. You did what you thought was necessary to save humanity. That does not make it right, but it does not make it wrong either. It just makes it war." A communication alert interrupted them. Lieutenant Chun appeared on the screen, her expression urgent. "Sir, you need to see this. We are getting reports from the Jathic homeworld. Something has happened." Marcus and Tanaka rushed to the bridge. When they arrived, they found the entire crew gathered around a transmission from Jathra Prime, the Dominion capital. The video showed chaos. Jathic citizens in the streets, some celebrating, others fighting, buildings burning, military forces clashing with each other. At the center of it all, High Commander Velcro's flagship had crashed into the Capitol Plaza. A new face appeared on the transmission, a Jathic female with commander insignia. "Human fleet, this is Commander Shatek, second in command of the Dominion military. I am broadcasting on all frequencies to announce that High Commander Velcro has been removed from command and taken into custody." She paused, her expression weary. "The Dominion Council has authorized me to negotiate a ceasefire with Earth. We are willing to discuss terms of surrender." The bridge erupted in shocked murmurs. Surrender. After 6 months of brutal warfare, the Jathic Dominion was offering to surrender. Marcus stared at the screen, feeling nothing. Not victory, not relief, just exhaustion. "Shall I respond, sir?" the communications officer asked. Marcus thought about Proxima, about Turala, about all the worlds caught between them, all the lives destroyed because 2 prideful leaders could not find a better way to solve their problems. "Tell Commander Shatek we will hear their terms," he said finally. "But make it clear that this is not over until we have justice for Proxima and guarantees that the Dominion will never threaten humanity again." "And Velcro?" Admiral Rodriguez asked. "What do we do about him?" Marcus looked at the image of the crashed flagship, thinking about the man who had started all of this, the warrior who had mocked humanity's weakness, the commander who had killed 6,000 humans to make a point. "He faces trial," Marcus said. "War Crimes Tribunal. Public. Transparent. He answers for Proxima Tertius, and I answer for Turala." The crew stared at him in shock. Sir, you can't, Chen began. Yes, I can, Marcus interrupted. 3 million people died because of my decision. I don't get to hide from that. If Velcro faces justice, so do I. That is what honor means. That is what separates us from them. He turned to Rodriguez. Admiral, assume command of the fleet. Coordinate with Commander Shatek on ceasefire terms. I am going to Jathra Prime to negotiate the peace personally. That is incredibly dangerous, Dr. Tanaka protested. You would be at their mercy. I know, Marcus said. But someone has to end this war, and it should be the person who turned it into what it became. As the Retribution prepared to jump to the Jadak homeworld, Marcus stood at the viewport one last time, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was watching, waiting to see if humans in Jadak would find peace, or burn each other to extinction. He thought about what he had told Velcro that day in the council chamber, about how humans had climbed to the top of Earth's food chain, about what they became when pushed too far. He had been right, but being right did not make the cost any easier to bear. Take us in, he ordered quietly. Let's end this war, one way or another. The Retribution emerged from hyperspace above Jathra Prime, and Marcus Webb got his first look at the Dominion homeworld. It was beautiful in a harsh way. Purple oceans, black continents, and 3 moons hanging in a blood-red sky. Under different circumstances, he might have appreciated it. Instead, all he could think about was the 3 million people who had died on Turala. Sir, we are being hailed by Planetary Defense, Lieutenant Chun reported. They are asking for confirmation of your identity and purpose. Tell them Supreme Commander Marcus Webb is here to negotiate peace terms with Commander Shatek. I am coming down alone. Alone? Admiral Rodriguez appeared on the communication screen from his ship. Marcus, that is insane. You will be surrounded by people who want you dead. I know, Marcus said calmly. But if I bring an armed escort, it looks like I do not trust them. That is no way to start peace negotiations. This has to be about trust, not force. After everything that has happened, you think trust is possible? Marcus smiled sadly. No, but we have to try anyway because the alternative is fighting until one of us is extinct. I have seen enough death, Admiral. I am done killing. An hour later, Marcus stood in a shuttle descending toward the capital city. Through the viewport, he could see the damage from the recent fighting, buildings marked by blasts, crashed ships, fires still burning in some districts. The Jadak had been fighting each other as much as they had been fighting humanity. The shuttle landed in a military complex on the outskirts of the city. As the ramp lowered, Marcus straightened his uniform and walked out to meet his hosts. A group of Jadak soldiers waited, their weapons held ready but not aimed at him. Behind them stood Commander Shatek. She was smaller than Velcro, but her presence was just as commanding. Her scales were deep blue, marked with scars that spoke of many battles. When she spoke, her voice carried authority that needed no translation device. Commander Webb, you are either very brave or very foolish to come here. Probably both, Marcus admitted. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I did not do it for you, Shatek said bluntly. I did it because my people are exhausted, because 17 of our worlds are in open rebellion, because our military is shattered, and our economy is collapsing. Because if this war continues, the Dominion will cease to exist. She gestured toward a building. Come. The council is waiting, and so is Velcro. Marcus followed her through corridors lined with armed guards. They all watched him with hatred in their eyes. He was the human who had killed millions of their people, the enemy who had broken their empire. If Shatek gave the order, they would tear him apart gladly. The council chamber was vast, with walls that showed the night sky above. 5 Jadak elders sat on elevated platforms, looking down at Marcus with expressions ranging from anger to resignation. And in the center of the room, surrounded by guards, stood Velcro. The former High Commander looked terrible. His scales were dull and cracked. His forearms were bound in restraints, but his eyes still burned with fury when he saw Marcus. So the human comes to gloat, Velcro said bitterly, to see the mighty Dominion brought low by primitives and their dirty tactics. I came to end the war, Marcus said quietly. That is all. Supreme Council member Rattan spoke, his ancient voice echoing through the chamber. Commander Webb, we have brought you here to discuss terms of peace. But first, we require your testimony. This council is determining Velcro's fate. He stands accused of crimes against the Dominion, of reckless military action, of using civilian populations as shields, of failures that nearly destroyed our civilization. And what about the human? Velcro demanded. He killed 3 million of our people. Where are the charges against him? There will be charges, Marcus said, surprising everyone. I am not hiding from what I did at Tirala. I made a tactical decision that resulted in massive civilian casualties. That is a war crime, and I should face justice for it. The council members exchanged glances. Clearly, they had not expected that response. You admit your guilt? Rattan asked carefully. I admit responsibility, Marcus corrected. Guilt implies I had better options. I did not. Your fleet was waiting to destroy my ships. The intelligence I had said Tirala was uninhabited. But that does not change the result. 3 million people died because of my orders. I have to answer for that. How noble, Velcro sneered. The human warrior playing at honor. But we both know the truth, do we not, Webb? You did what you had to do. Just like I did at Proxima Tertius. We are the same, you and I. Both willing to kill millions for what we believe is right. Marcus looked at him steadily. No, Velcro, we are not the same. You attacked Proxima Tertius to make a political point, to show the galaxy what happens when someone defies the Dominion. Those 6,000 people died because of your pride. At Tirala, I was trying to end the war, to stop more death. I made a terrible mistake, but my intent was defense, not conquest. Intent. Velcro laughed harshly. You think intent matters to the dead? To the families who burned? To the children who will never grow up? No, Marcus said quietly. Intent does not matter to them. That is why I am willing to face trial. That is why I am here in your capital, surrounded by people who want me dead. Because the dead deserve justice, even if justice means I pay with my life. The chamber fell silent. Even Velcro seemed at a loss for words. Commander Shatek stepped forward. The council must decide on several matters: Velcro's fate, Webb's fate, and the terms of peace between our peoples. Let us begin with testimony. Commander Webb, tell us how this war started from your perspective. For the next 3 hours, Marcus testified. He described the council meeting where the Jadic demanded surrender of human colonies, the threats Velcro made, the destruction of Proxima Tertius, his authorization of total war protocols, every battle, every decision, every terrible moment that had led them to this point. Then Velcro testified. He described his perspective of humanity's arrogance, their rapid expansion into space, and his belief that the Dominion needed to act before humans became too powerful. The council vote authorized force. His decision was to make an example of Proxima Tertius. I wanted them to fear us, Velcro said, to understand that the Dominion was not to be challenged. I thought one demonstration of force would be enough, that they would surrender the remaining colonies and accept their place in the galactic order. Instead, you created an enemy willing to burn everything to defeat you, Rattan said coldly. Yes, Velcro admitted. I underestimated them. I thought diplomats were weak. I did not understand that humans only became diplomats because they were trying to escape what they used to be. When I pushed them, they reverted to their nature, and their nature is terrifying. Marcus felt the weight of those words. Velcro was right. Humans had spent 2 centuries trying to be better than their violent past. But when threatened, they became exactly what they feared becoming. Rattan turned his attention to Marcus. Commander Webb, you claim you acted in defense, but your tactics went beyond defense. You supported rebellions across our territory. You turned our own infrastructure against us. You destroyed not just military targets, but the foundations of our civilization. Was all that necessary? Yes, Marcus said without hesitation. Because you were not going to stop. Even after we started winning, Velcro kept attacking our colonies, kept killing our people. The only way to end the war was to break your ability to fight. That meant destroying your logistics, your supply chains, your military infrastructure. It meant supporting anyone willing to stand against you. Even if it meant destabilizing the entire region, another council member asked. Dozens of worlds are in chaos because of the rebellions you encouraged. It will take decades to restore order. Good, Marcus said, his voice hard. Maybe this time you will restore order through justice instead of oppression. Those species you conquered did not ask to be part of your empire. They fought for their freedom because you gave them no choice. I just gave them the tools to fight. Velcro strained against his bonds. You speak of justice, of freedom. You killed 3 million of my people. I know, Marcus shouted back, his composure finally cracking. I know what I did. I see their faces every time I close my eyes. I hear their screams in my sleep. You think I am proud of Tirala? That I celebrated it as some great victory? He stepped closer to Velcro, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. I hate what I became in this war. I hate that I was good at it. I hate that I made decisions that killed millions and would make those same decisions again if I had to. But you know what I hate most? I hate that you made it necessary. That you killed 6,000 of my people and forced me to become a monster to stop you from killing more. The two commanders stood face to face, both broken by the war they had waged. Around them, the council watched in silence. Finally, Rattan spoke. This council has heard enough. We will now deliberate on 3 matters: the fate of Velcroth, the fate of Commander Webb, and the terms of peace between our peoples. You will both wait while we decide. Marcus and Velcro were taken to separate chambers. Hours passed. Finally, guards escorted Marcus back to the council chamber. Velcro was already there, still in restraints. The 5 council members looked exhausted. Rattan spoke. We have reached our decisions. First, regarding High Commander Velcroth. You are found guilty of crimes against the Dominion, unauthorized military action that endangered our civilization, misuse of civilian populations as military shields, and failures of command that resulted in catastrophic losses. Your rank is stripped. Your honors are forfeit. You will spend the remainder of your life in confinement. Velcro stood rigid, his face expressionless, but Marcus saw the pain in his eyes. For a warrior like him, losing honor was worse than death. Second, regarding Commander Webb, Rattan continued. You have admitted responsibility for the deaths at Tirala. However, this council recognizes that you acted on incomplete intelligence and in the context of a war initiated by Velcroth. We also recognize your willingness to face justice despite having the power to refuse. Therefore, you will not be executed. You will face trial at a neutral tribunal where multiple species will determine appropriate consequences. Marcus nodded. That was fair. More than fair. Third, regarding peace between our peoples, Rattan said. The Dominion formally surrenders to Earth. We acknowledge that our actions precipitated this conflict. Immediate cessation of hostilities. Payment of reparations to Earth for Proxima and other colonies. Reduction of our military to defensive forces only. Release of all conquered species who wish independence. And submission to oversight by a coalition of neutral species. The council member paused. Additionally, the Dominion formally apologizes to humanity for the massacre at Proxima Tertius and acknowledges that our actions violated galactic law and basic morality. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. It was not forgiveness. It was not justice. But it was acknowledgement. Commander Webb, Rattan said, do you accept these terms on behalf of Earth? I need to consult my government, Marcus said. But personally, yes, I accept. The war is over. A communication link was established with Earth. After debate and review, the Human Council voted to accept. The war was over. Later, Marcus stood on a balcony overlooking the Jadic capital. Commander Shatek joined him, carrying 2 cups of a traditional drink. It symbolizes respect, she explained. Marcus accepted the cup. It was bitter, but warm. Your people will hate you for surrendering, he said. Some will, Shatek agreed. Others will understand I saved the Dominion from destruction. Either way, I made the right choice. How do you know it was right? Because we are both still alive to question it, she said. War makes everything simple. Peace is what is complicated. She looked at him. When this war started, I thought humans were weak. Velcro told us you were primitives. That your diplomacy was cowardice. She paused. I was wrong. What do you think now? Shatek asked. I think humans are terrifying, she said bluntly. You do not just fight. You study your enemy, find their weaknesses, and exploit them with surgical precision. You turn their own strengths into vulnerabilities. You fight with a cold calculation that even the most hardened warrior finds disturbing. She sipped her drink. But I also think you are capable of mercy. You could have destroyed us completely. Instead, you offered terms that let us survive. That takes a different kind of strength. They stood in silence, watching the sun set over a capital city that bore the scars of civil war. In the distance, work crews were already repairing damaged buildings. What will you do now? Shatek asked. Face trial for Tirala? Yes, Marcus said. Accept whatever punishment is decided. After that, if I survive, I am going home. Back to Montana. Back to the ranch where I grew up. I am going to try to remember what it was like to be the person I was before all this. Do you think that is possible? Marcus thought about the question about the 6,000 dead on Proxima Tertius and the 3 million dead on Tirala. About all the decisions he had made and the lives they had cost. I do not know, he admitted. But I have to try, because if I cannot find my way back to being human, then Velcro was right about us. We really are just primitives who know how to kill. 6 months later, Marcus stood in a very different chamber. The Galactic Tribunal, a neutral court where representatives from 15 species had gathered to judge his actions at Tirala. He testified for 3 days, answering every question and providing every detail of his decision-making process. The judges deliberated for a week. When they returned, their verdict was nuanced. Yes, Marcus had killed 3 million civilians. Yes, he should have verified the intelligence more thoroughly. But they also acknowledged the context of the war, the limited time he had to act, and Velcro's use of civilians as shields. The sentence was 5 years in a neutral facility, where Marcus would help rebuild worlds damaged by the war. He would coordinate humanitarian efforts instead of military operations. It was punishment, but also a chance for redemption. Marcus accepted without complaint. 3 years later, Marcus supervised the construction of a new city on Keelther Prime, one of the worlds that had rebelled against the Dominion. The Keelther had gained independence in the peace agreement, and now they were building a new society. A young Keelther approached him one day carrying a small memorial stone. Commander Webb, I wanted to thank you. My family was freed because of what you did. Because you fought for us. Marcus looked at the stone. It bore the names of those who had died fighting for freedom. I did not fight for you, Marcus said gently. I fought for humanity. Your freedom was a consequence, not a goal. Does that matter? The young Keelther asked. You still helped us. Marcus hesitated. I do not know. I am still trying to understand that. 2 more years passed. Marcus completed his sentence and returned to Earth, to Montana, to the ranch where he had grown up. It had been preserved exactly as he remembered it. He spent his days working the land, fixing fences, tending animals, simple work that required no strategy, no war. At night, he sat on the porch and watched the stars. The galaxy had changed. The Dominion had fragmented into smaller states. Dozens of species had gained independence. The Galactic Council had reformed, with humans holding a permanent seat and veto power. But the cost had been enormous. One evening, Marcus received an unexpected visitor. An old Jadic figure approached his porch, scales faded with age. It took Marcus a moment to recognize him. Velcro. The former High Commander looked nothing like the warrior Marcus remembered. Prison and time had broken him physically, but there was something else in his eyes now, understanding or regret. Commander Webb, Velcro said quietly. May I sit? Marcus gestured to a chair. They sat in silence, watching the sunset over the Montana hills. They released me, Velcro said. Medical grounds. I do not have long left. I am sorry. Do not be. I deserve worse than death. He looked at Marcus. In prison, I finally understood what I did. I told myself I was protecting the Dominion. But I was afraid. Afraid humans would surpass us. Afraid our dominance would end. So I struck first. And destroyed everything I was trying to protect. Marcus said nothing. You asked me once if I knew what I was awakening, Velcro continued. I did not. I thought I was fighting primitives. Instead, I was fighting a species that had survived its own worst impulses and learned to focus them. He looked toward the stars. I awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. Silence stretched between them. 6,000 of your people died because of me, Velcro said. And 3 million of mine because of me, Marcus replied quietly. Yes, Velcro said. We are both monsters, Webb. The only difference is that you tried to be something better first. They sat together until darkness fell. When Velcro finally stood, he said one last thing. Do not let them turn us into heroes or villains. We were both wrong. War makes everyone it touches less than they were. Marcus watched him walk into the dark. He never saw Velcro again. Years passed. Marcus grew old on his ranch. Occasionally, young officers visited him for advice. He always told them the same thing. Never forget the enemy is someone else's family. War should always be the last option. Because once it starts, you cannot control what you become. He showed them recordings of Proxima Tertius, of Terala, of everything that had been lost. This is what victory looks like, he would say. Remember the cost. On his 80th birthday, Marcus received a message from the Galactic Council. They were building a memorial for all who had died in the war. They asked for his input. Marcus replied with one sentence. Make sure it shows everyone's faces. The dead deserve to be remembered as people, not statistics. Maybe 5 real traps maximum. That's still 5 chances for our people to die. Marcus said, we need to change tactics. No more hitting obvious targets. From now on, we focus on attacks that have secondary effects. Like what? Admiral Rodriguez asked. Marcus pulled up a display of the Gothic mining operations. Asteroid mining is automated, right? Processing stations take raw ore and refine it into usable materials. Yes, and they're usually lightly defended because they're so remote. Exactly, Marcus said. But what happens if we don't destroy the stations? What if we reprogram them? Understanding dawned on the intelligence officer's face. We turn them into weapons. Use their mining lasers and processing equipment to cut asteroids into precise chunks, then launch them at specific targets. The Dominion uses predictable shipping lanes, Marcus continued. If we position these modified asteroids along those lanes, we can create a debris field that makes hyperspace travel dangerous. They'll have to reroute their entire logistics network. That could take months, Tanaka said. It's brilliant. We turn their own resources into obstacles, and they can't just destroy the stations because they need them. More than that, Marcus added. Each station we reprogram is one more thing they have to worry about. They'll have to send ships to inspect every station and verify it hasn't been compromised. That spreads them even thinner. The new strategy was implemented over the following weeks. Human strike groups stopped destroying facilities and started taking them over. Mining stations became automated weapons platforms. Communications relays were hacked to broadcast resistance messages. Processing facilities were reprogrammed to produce faulty equipment that failed under stress. The Jathic Dominion had conquered 847 worlds over 10,000 years. They had faced countless enemies and defeated them all. But they had never faced an enemy like humanity, an enemy that didn't fight for territory or resources, but to break them psychologically. An enemy that turned their own infrastructure into a weapon against them. In his command center, Velcro watched his empire crumble one piece at a time. Reports of failures, betrayals, and defeats flooded in. 3 more worlds in open rebellion. 7 supply lines disrupted. A fleet commander executed for incompetence. Another lost to what troops were calling space madness. He studied footage of Marcus Webb, the diplomat they had once mocked. Now that same man was systematically dismantling everything Velcro had built. "We underestimated them," his second-in-command said quietly. "The intelligence reports were wrong. The humans aren't primitives. They're predators pretending to be prey." "No," Velcro said slowly. "They weren't pretending. They genuinely wanted peace." Webb meant every word. "We could have negotiated. We could have found compromise. But we chose to make them remember what they used to be." In the Terala sector, the final trap was set. 300 warships hidden around a fuel processing facility. Marcus knew it was a trap, and he walked into it anyway. The human fleet arrived and immediately detected the ambush. "It's a trap," Chen said calmly. "I know," Marcus replied. Velcro's voice came over comms. "You walked into my trap." "I walked into it on purpose," Marcus said. "Did you really think I wouldn't know you were here?" "You're bluffing," Velcro snapped. "I wouldn't bring my fleet into a battle I can't win," Marcus said. "But I would bring it into a battle you think you can win." Then he ordered, "Phase 2. Now." The human ships surged forward, not retreating, but accelerating straight into the fuel facilities. "Stop them," Velcro shouted. "They're targeting the fuel tanks." But it was too late. Human ships slammed into the storage tanks. One detonated first, then another. The explosions merged into a system-wide inferno. The human fleet escaped through coordinated emergency jumps, but the damage was catastrophic. 216 Dominion warships destroyed, 63 crippled. The ambush force shattered. Victory came at a cost. 78 human dead. Then the truth arrived. Terala was not uninhabited. 3 million civilians had been on the planet below, hidden there deliberately by Velcro as insurance. Marcus stared at the reports, numb. "I just killed 3 million people," he whispered. "You didn't know," Chen said. "This is on Velcro. But they're still dead because of my decision." Velcro's transmission came moments later, his voice broken. "You killed them. 3 million of my people." "I didn't know they were there," Marcus said. "Would it have mattered?" Velcro asked. "Or would you have done it anyway?" Marcus had no answer. Because he might have. And that was the horror. What followed was not victory, it was total war. Worlds burned. Rebellions spread. Civilizations collapsed and reformed in chaos. Both sides escalated beyond anything either had intended. Marcus finally broke during a transmission. "I hate what I became. I hate that I was good at it. I hate that I would do it again if I had to. But I hate even more that you made it necessary." Velcro replied, "We are the same. You and I. We just chose different reasons to justify it." Eventually, the Dominion surrendered. Velcro was imprisoned. Marcus was tried. The tribunal acknowledged both truth and context. Marcus was responsible for mass civilian deaths, but acted within a collapsing war triggered by Velcro's initial atrocities. Sentence: 5 years rebuilding devastated worlds. No execution. No absolution. Just consequence. Years later, Marcus returned to a quiet life in Montana. Fields, fences, silence. No strategies. No fleets. No war. Velcro eventually visited him, old and broken. "We were both wrong," Velcro said. "The war made us believe there were only heroes and monsters. There weren't. Just survivors." Marcus nodded. "I know." After Velcro's death, Marcus lived out his remaining years away from history. But history did not forget him. A memorial was built listing every dead, human and alien alike. At its center, an inscription read, "Here we remember the cost of pride, the price of fear, and the wages of war. May those who come after us find wisdom we did not." In his final report, Marcus wrote, "We won. But we proved we could become exactly what we feared to defeat what we feared most. Remember that, and find a better way."